PTE Help, Test 25, Retell lectures and summarize spoken text.
Well, I'm really interested at the interface between the infected and uninfected red cells. In particular, I want to know what are the tiny structures on your uninfected red cells that the infected ones use to latch on. So, in the lab, I grow malaria. I feed it fresh human red blood cells and I allow these clumps to form. Then I can use specific chemicals that block certain structures on your uninfected red blood cells and observe what happens to the rosettes. I found that when I blocked a specific structure called RIGHT-B, the rosettes just fall apart. I went on to test this further using genetically engineered red blood cells that have no RIGHT-B, and I found these cells can't form rosettes. This is fantastic news because it tells us that we need to target RIGHT-B when we're looking to develop new medications that we can give to relieve the obstructions caused by rosettes in severe malaria. Now, we're not there yet. Malaria is a really clever enemy that us humans have been fighting for literally thousands of years. But I hope that the next stage of my research will help develop the medication that we can give to children suffering from severe malaria to help prevent those deaths that are occurring right now.
PTE Help, sampled 90 scores response. The lecturer was interested to discover the interface between infected and uninfected red cells. She grew malaria and fed it with human red blood cells, allowing the clumps to form. She used specific chemicals to block such structures. She found that genetically engineered red blood cells couldn't form rosettes. Malaria is a clever enemy that human beings have been fighting for years. Thus, she hopes to develop a new medication fighting severe malaria cases across the world.
PTE Help, Test 25, Retell lectures and summarize spoken text.
You all know what this is. Yeah, this is a match. And we have fuel in that match. So the stick is the fuel. We have a bit of accelerant up here, but the stick is the fuel. It will be kind of impregnated with a bit of flammable liquid as well. Most matches are, but that is our fuel. And it's in air, which has got lots of oxygen in. So what's the last thing that we're missing to get a fire? Heat. Brilliant. So we add in some heat and it ignites. We have a little fire. You can see kind of the moisture there moving, and we've got some kind of charring, and we've got the flame. What's actually happening? So let's look at that in a bit more detail. So here is our fuel. It's in air. We've got some heat exposed to it, and we get a fire. So the first thing that's happening is when we have that heat putting onto it, we're having something called pyrolysis. This is the thermal decomposition of the material due to heat. And what's that doing is that is creating volatiles. So these are kind of combustible molecules which are being kind of pushed up because of the heat, the buoyant air, as a fuel. And this is kind of in a gas form. And as you'll see, kind of, we've got some color up here, but we've got no color up down here. And this is where the air is being entrained into the fire. So we need oxygen, we need heat, and we need fuel.
PTE Help, Sample 90 Scores Response. The lecturer is explaining the procedure of the ignition of a matchstick. According to the theory, heat, fuel, and oxygen are the key components for burning the flame. After getting exposed to it, pyrolysis happens, which is the thermal decomposition of the material due to heat. The lecturer also draws our attention to the fact that this is something, like creating volatile and combustible molecules, which are pushed up. Thus, these key components are crucial to burn a matchstick.
PTE Help, Test 25, Retell lectures and summarize spoken text.
This lecture will first unfold a natural theology of the divine spirit by means of a contemporary example. What one finds is that a purely intellectual, rational understanding of this spirit, or vague notions that it is a numinous entity that eludes our understanding, cannot adequately grasp this spirit and its workings. In the second part, I demonstrate how the divine spirit and the human spirit are multimodal powers that cannot be reduced to entities characterized predominantly by bipolar relations. Observations on early childhood mental development in the third part show that the human mind is considerably broader and more complex than the intellectual, rational spirit. Aesthetic and moral powers, in coordination with the human body and its natural and social environments, must be included to get a full picture of the human spirit. In the final part, I broaden the perspective on social, political, and religious questions connected to the spirit,
PTE Help, Sample 90 Scores Response. This lecture unfolds a natural theology of the divine spirit by means of a contemporary example. The vague notions elude our understanding and cannot adequately grasp spirit. The divine spirit and human spirit are multimodal. Observations on early childhood and mental development reveal that the human mind is considerably broader and more complex than intellectual rational spirit in its natural environments. The third part unfolds social, political, and religious questions.
PTE Help, Test 25, Retell lectures and summarize spoken text.
So how do we begin to live? I think a lot of people don't even know what their means are.
It's true. A lot of folks never take a look at their money. They don't really know how much they spend. They don't know where the money goes. Do you feel
That's
that way?
why what you guys said was great, that you made them come in and look at it. Let's look at it.
Track your expenses. Track every single dollar you spend. You can do it on a sheet of paper. You can do it with an Excel spreadsheet. You can do it with Quicken if you have a computer. But you can do it with an ordinary sheet of paper and a pen, and just track where your money goes, and you will be astonished when you discover how much of your money you're spending on literally nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. And so when you wonder, where'd my money? And as soon as you see yourself doing that, you'll immediately stop because you'll realize it is just so silly. $1 I don't need to spend on X, and you'll just stop doing it.
It at least will make you conscious, because I think, who hasn't that happened to, where you have $50 in your wallet, and then at the end of it, you go, how did that happen? Where have I been? Okay.
PTE Help, Sample 90 Scores PTE Help, Sample 90 Scores Response. The conversation aims to point out that folks actually do not know where to spend money or where their money actually goes. One of the orator emphasizes a solution that they can track their every single expenses separately on an Excel sheet or on a paper to sort it out. This way can be beneficial to immediately stop overspending on useless activities and make conscious decisions onwards.